Good day, nerds, and welcome to the first Patreon exclusive episode.
Yeah, we wanted to give you guys a little something extra, and we're trying to find time in our schedules to give our financial supporters some extra content. So here we go.
And it also gives us an opportunity just to dish on a movie we were big fans of and have a spoiler-full talk. The purpose of this episode here today is we're going to talk full spoilers and talk a bit of our kind of analysis and thoughts on the movie deeper than what we did in the weekly show.
Yeah, I fucking seen it twice now.
Yeah, I wish I would have gone and seen it a second time, but it was hard enough for me to see it once.
And I honestly tell you, if you do have a window to go see a movie again, like that, I'd take Natalie to see it. I mean, because now your wife hasn't seen it. You could explain to her how actually good it was and maybe convince her to go see it so you get to see it a second time.
Yeah, so I said in the original podcast, but I left that movie completely confused on how I felt. Like I didn't know my own emotions. I didn't know what I thought about the movie. I actually walked out of it and I said to my brother-in-law who I saw it with, I said, I don't know if I'll ever watch that movie again. I liked it, but I didn't know if there was ever enough for me to go back to. But then it really didn't take me long to start reflecting on it and then talking to him about it. And you start to really appreciate kind of the acting is great, but you start to appreciate really the twists, the subtle nuances of the story, the areas that are open for interpretation, the things that if I watch it again, what did I miss? What cues am I going to key on in the second time? I really do want to see it for that reason now, because upon reflection on the movie, I like it more and more the further distance I get from when I saw it.
Yeah, so seeing it a second time, honest to God, I love it even more now, because instead of, I try to go into movies with like a clean palette, no kind of expectations, for the review purposes and things like that. So while the movie's going on, I try not to analyze too much. I'm just trying to soak in what's going on. I'm not trying to predict something that's going to happen. I mean, unless it's a bad movie and it's unbelievably predictable. But I try to just absorb it as it is. So the first time I watched it, I didn't want to get too far ahead of myself. So I'm just kind of watching the movie, enjoying it. The second time I went in, because these things are coming, you're able to kind of analyze the scene as it's going, reflect a little bit without fear of missing something coming up. And after the second time watching it, not only did I enjoy the movie more, but I really had a new appreciation for the artistry of the film.
Yeah. And I what I'd like to do for the episode is, let's reflect on some of the specifics now that we can and talk through, really the direction of the movie, because to me, I think there's a lot, and I think there's different ways to interpret this, and I think I look at it as there's actually still a ton of possibilities that you can look at the way this movie played out, and how much you can interpret as real or is completely fabricated in the Joker's mind or through storytelling.
Yeah, so there's a few theories out there. One that I really kind of hate is the fact that everything. So when they refer to him being in the mental institution, he's banging his head on the glass. Yeah. A lot of people say that's actually the beginning of the movie, and the end is him killing the psychiatrist, like he's supposed to, or at the end. Everything in between is a delusion.
Is it?
He was in the nut hut the whole time, and everything in the movie was a delusion. So, which me, I kind of fucking hate that.
I
theory.
Actually love that theory. I personally love that theory. I love that theory that the end, when he kills the psychiatrist, and he comes out of the remembering of the Waynes dying, and he comes in with that laugh, that actual maybe for the first time genuine laugh that the Joker has throughout the whole movie, to where he actually thinks something's funny. Every other time it was a painful laugh, it was an obligated laugh because of his condition, or it was a fake laugh because social cues tell him other people think this shit's funny and he should laugh. And that one ends up being the only real laughter he has is reminiscing about the Waynes dying. And I like the theory that was him coming out of a story that he just told the psychiatrist, because that's perfectly in line with comic book canon. That the Joker's history is so untold, and he likes to keep it this nebulous multiple choice that he talks about in the comics. And if it pans out as that this was just a fabricated story that he told the psychiatrist because he's in an appointment and he's got nowhere better to be, I think that's phenomenal. And it just makes the whole movie worthless.
See, but I love the fact of this being his actual origin. Just because like some people are upset that he never is the really like batshit crazy Joker in this film, that it's, you know, and I try to just tell people that this was the Joker's birth. This was his birth. Yeah. If the Waynes just died, he's got another 15 years of molding himself into the Joker that the Batman actually comes into contact with for the first time. You know, so God only knows what he's going to do in the next 15 years now that he's birthed himself as the Joker to give him range to be any kind of Joker that you've imagined in your head. You know, I don't think him having this detailed of a backstory necessarily ruins or changes any future depiction of the Joker that you would have in your head.
Yeah, I don't think this ruins it, and we talk about this in the Facebook group. We had a huge discussion that there's a big thread in our Facebook group around this, and that's one of the problems I have with a lot of the critiques that people are giving is when people are like, "Oh, this isn't Joker. This isn't even really true to Joker." And it's like nobody knows what's true to Joker, and that's one of the things that bothers me is that there is no true origin to Joker. And no. I like the potential, people who theorize that this is also not the true beginning of Joker. This was, maybe this was
Joker 1.0.
This was Joker telling his story to a psychiatrist to disarm her, to give some sob story backstory, to get her to let her guard down, and then he kills her in an attempt to escape. Like, maybe this is not his story.
I'm good with any of them because I'm happy that the movie was just made. It was a phenomenal story. It was the way it was put together. It was a masterpiece. Yeah. I have one like gripe. I wouldn't even call it a gripe, but if I ever got put in front of the director, I would have to ask him this question. So in the scene where after he kills the other clown and he's getting ready to go on the show and he's dancing down the stairs, why do they use that NBA halftime ass music?
And so
that was like the music crap. Was such a it was such an important part of the film, and just the depth, the deepness of that music. It just really every scene it went perfectly with. And then you get Sports Jams 3.
So I thought
on the down the stairs. What the fuck is it? That's the one part of the artistry. Maybe he had a reason. But someone fucking explain it to me because to me it almost ruined that whole thing.
And if you watch there's a lot of interviews out there with Joaquin Phoenix, and one of them that he did with, I want to say it was Jimmy Kimmel. He was explaining about
I watched that interview.
He was explaining about all of his dancing and stuff like that, and he said they asked about whether things were choreographed or not, and
he went to a dance
and
instructor.
He said there were two dances that were choreographed. The first one was the one in the bathroom after he kills him, and he does that like really like Black Swan fucking ballet looking dance that he does in the bathroom.
That's some of my favorite shit though. That's like I'll go into that later.
That one was choreographed, and then the one on the stairs was choreographed. And he said the one on the stairs was choreographed specifically because they really wanted. They came up with it specifically because the score, the music was made. He listened to the score and said, "Hey, we've got to do something with this," and they came up with that dance sequence. So when that part came on and it was dancing, because I was already cued for this, I watched that interview before I saw the movie. So then when I got to that scene, I was like, "Oh, okay, here I want to hear this beautiful score that they made for the movie," and I hear fucking hey, I'm just like what
the fuck? Like, what the fuck is that, man?
I seriously, I was like, no fucking way.
If they would have ended the scene with just that song, because it goes from there to the cello, and the cello brings you back to the deepness of this movie. Like, if they wouldn't have had that at the end, I don't know, that would have probably changed my whole opinion of the movie almost, because it was just so off.
It was.
Like,
and I can get like the change of the music is a transition in the music, and that transition in the music is also symbolic to the fact that this was his transition to the Joker. This was his coming out. This was his moment that he embraces his own, sociopath nature or whatever else. So it was the transitionary time for the character, and I can understand having two drastically different scores at that point. But why that cheesy ass song? You could have definitely had something else.
Well, while we're on the transitioning, that's the thing I really kind of picked up on and was looking for the second time I seen it. So to me, this is a story of a psychopathic like caterpillar. So the entire life of Arthur Fleck until
Fleck.
The point of Arthur Fleck until the point of the train scene is his life as a caterpillar. And then he murders those three dudes that are, he finally takes a little bit of power from society in his own hands, and he runs away scared. But after that, he gets to the bathroom, and I specifically was thinking to myself, I was like, all right, watch this dance. Why is he dancing after that? And like, to me, that was like him wrapping himself in the cocoon. Like that whole just dance he does is the caterpillar wrapping himself in the cocoon. And then everything throughout the movie is that like gestation period, him finding himself, everything kind of like falling into place.
Yeah.
And then right before he walks out onto the stage for the talk show, he does like that dance again and spreads his arms wide. And like, that's the butterfly, that's it, or the moth, I guess you'd say. Like, that's him coming out of the cocoon and walking out onto that stage as the Joker. He was introduced as the Joker right at that scene. And that's when America met the Joker, and it was right as he blossomed as, out of the cocoon. To me, like, it was just like, it was a masterpiece. I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah, I really do. I think kind of the arc that was painted for him was great, and I like the analogy. I didn't necessarily look at it that way, but I mean all those same points. I think everybody kind of mentally frames it within that same construct. That taking the three lives, that definitely opens something up to him, and then he does have that period in between where he's not continuing to act on violence, but he's also just recognizing that one. The consequences never come. He gets away with it to some degree. And then he's also watching society embrace it. He's also watching and recognizing that, hey, this is who he's becoming. I think all of that plays out really well. You get that weird part, following the shooting and the dance. Did at any point in time you believe that he actually went and when he stalked the girl and then she came in and asked him about it and she was cool with it, and that, because did you ever believe that? Or,
no, I did. I was in. I was in. I thought she was just really fucked up too. She's got her kid. She's got her kid on the elevator, and she's seen, like gives the symbol like she wants to blow her fucking head off, like she hates her life and shit. So I was like, I could buy it. Like, I thought something was going to happen.
No, there was never a point. That first scene that she was talking to him in the hallway and asking like, hey, were you following me today? And then she just like smiles about it and she's cool with it. I was like, this is fake as fuck. This is 100% not true. I don't care. No director, nobody can pass that off as believable.
Yeah, I was fine. I thought she was just a weirdo too.
No, and then the fact that her kid never really comes back around, that she's constant, like she's in the hospital, she's doing all this stuff, going out to you, and the kids never mentioned she's single mom. I thought that was.
I just chalked it up to the story wanting to be about Arthur. You know what I mean? That's I just chalked it up to they didn't want to take attention away from the focus of the movie.
I can see that, but I never bought into it, so I wasn't thrown off when that became a complete, false narration of his story. And I think the fact that that's exposed as false is, I don't know, maybe that's the part that throws the big monkey wrench in that theory that this was all a story told to the psychiatrist at the end. Because what's he going fucking
why have that
Inception
Inception
story bullshit? Like, so that's what crumbles that theory to me is that whole storyline with her. Even though I like that theory, just because I like the Joker being. I like him never having a.
So other than the Sports Jam song, did you have any other gripes with the movie? Like,
so I think the pacing, it is slow at times. There are moments that it does kind of drag. Like I said, it's acted great.
I don't know. I can't say that. I'm not going to say that it's not a slow movie, but even seeing it a second time, knowing what was going to happen, there was never a time where I was bored in the theater or I was like waiting, like, okay, can we get through this scene? Like even going the second time, it made me, I think, even realize more how every scene was needed. Every scene was needed for the character development and to tell this story. I don't think there was any fat to cut off this movie or a way to tell this story in a faster pace, and with how good it came out, I can't argue with that fact, of the pacing.
Yeah, I think there's an argument to be had that it was at times unnecessarily slow. Some of the scenes where they just hold a single camera angle on essentially nothing happening or whatever else, is it all needed? Maybe not. I didn't, in the end, have a huge problem with it. I just can see that as a legitimate complaint. We also got, wonder where your thoughts are now that you've had a few days to think about it after our discussion that we had in the Facebook group about, whether is this the Joker really we want? Do we really want the sympathetic story or the true backstory, or the sociopath Joker that everybody's always assumed that, hey, he was just a criminal. He was a common thug who turns into Joker, not kind of driven to madness and driven to crime because of, his mental health issues that stem from his childhood.
See, I could care less which one he had either way. The fact that people are upset that he's not just a sociopath that enjoys doing it, that was just, I guess, born that way, had a silver spoon in his mouth and had everything in life, and he still ended up like this because he's fucked up. Like, why does that make it a better character?
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand why that. I think people have a problem dealing with having sympathy for horrible people. I honestly do. I think people feel guilty about feeling empathy towards somebody that did something horrifically bad, and honestly, I think that's a good thing. I think we should be able to look at some of the lower people in our society, and not everyone deserves empathy, but there are some people that, Mindhunters is a big show favorite of the Cantina, and that whole show is based on why these people turn out this way. And if you look at the why people are this way, you're always going to find some kind of empathetic or sympathetic story.
Yeah, I personally like the take on it. I think it does. It allows the character to build. What's the alternative? You're just going to have him be, are you just going to go with the criminal who falls in a vat of acid and really there's no depth to why he's doing it other than the fact that he's just driven by organized crime and money? I don't know. That's boring. There's not much.
Well, like even in the Jack Nicklaus version, or is it Nicholas or Nicholson? I always get that confused. Nicholson,
right?
Yeah.
I might be there.
I don't know. I'm not even.
All right.
So even him in the movie was kind of a dick before he fell in the vat. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like he was this fucking rich super dad and fell in the vat and became this evil person. Like, no, I'm pretty sure he was a bad guy to start, and then he got dipped, and it just kind of intensified that. So I don't understand where people get off saying like, well, he needs to be evil just to be evil. I just think people don't want to sympathize with such a fucked up character.
And there's a social commentary that you can draw from this movie if you so choose, right? You can you can just take that this movie it's just simply Gotham, and Gotham's a fucked up place. It's always been a fucked up place, and this is the start of it deteriorating. Or you could take this as a social commentary towards today and the income inequalities and things that happen today, the health disparities that happen today, and the challenges for access to good mental health care, especially for the poor. I think that's where it kind of hits home, maybe in a too close to home way, is that you could draw a lot of social commentary. Whether, do you think it was intentional? Do you think that Todd Phillips and them sought out to poke holes at our own treatment of mental health and our own treatment of access to care in this country, or was this just Gotham?
Yeah, are we creating the next Joker by making America great again?
Well, and that's so. What's your opinion? If you you could pretend to be Todd Phillips right now, was this an intentional, parallel U.S.?
I think 100% yes. I think 100% yes. I think it's a commentary on how hard society can be for some, and the ramifications that come with that. Who knows if he has any background in mental health, if someone has been affected in his family or someone close to him, to where, maybe mental health is big in this guy's life, or it's an issue that he really cares about. But there's no way you can't pull those parallels when they're cutting the funding that gets him his meds. They're there's a commentary on bullying. You know what I mean? He's bullied throughout the entire film. So you could also chalk it up to the way society treats our kind of introverted members and things like that.
Or that random,
there's a lot of
random dude. I again, it's Southern California here. We got a lot of homeless, and the random dude on the street corner who's just shouting to himself or who's compulsively acting out. Well, the treatment that those individuals get, is it, hey, are we creating mini Jokers? Are we creating people who are so beaten and downtrodden by society that they're one step away?
Well, what I hesitate to say is, I would choose to say we are neglecting them, not creating them. Just because I don't give a shit doesn't mean that I'm at fault for why this Joker is coming.
Yeah, no, I
just because, you know what I mean? I don't like the term create as much as I would like to at least acknowledge. By ignoring a problem that we all know is there, we are not causing the result, but we are not preventing the result. It's not like climate change.
Yeah, no, I like that distinction. We're those who are suffering from mental health and different levels of psychosis and everything else, that they can be managed and they can be treated with greater access, and this is an instance where the system fails, so it doesn't create the problem, but what it did was fail to prevent it or fail to treat it. I like that distinction. Yeah,
because there are people in place and mechanisms in place that have more power to help alleviate these things. And if you need a finger to point at, you can point, I think, at specific kind of government branches or funding, or who votes on funding and stuff like that. But to point the finger at society as a whole and say, you random dude walking the street, you're to blame too. What the fuck you mean? I'm I don't know this dude. I've never seen this dude. I didn't kick him in the ass. What the fuck you want from me? So I don't like the commentary that society is creating Jokers. We're not creating them, but we definitely ain't doing much to limit the number of them.
Yeah, no, like I said, I think that's a good a way that I can kind of get behind as well. Kind of thinking about it that way, as far as societal's impact or responsibility towards people who take up violence, right? Because again, social commentary can be had if you're saying that society's creating these people, and you look at all these mass shooters that we know have some level of diagnosed depression, some level of mental health. A lot of the drivers towards actual mass violence today is mental health. And if you fall in the mindset that society's creating it, then what leaps are you making towards our own society? And that's why I like this movie. Again, I like it because the reflection you can have on this movie can take you a bunch of different ways and stem conversation.
We gotta at least acknowledge the phenomenal acting performance that Joaquin Phoenix put on.
I think we have. I think everybody has. There's no way. Like seriously left that movie hoping that he has a good therapist. Like, I left that movie thinking there's no way. Like, I don't believe it.
Could someone call Joaquin? I want to give him a hug.
Like, I do not believe that people act that well. Like, no, he's pulling from.
Well,
something.
have you seen him in interviews?
Yeah.
Like, since then, you're like, yeah, he's a different breed. I felt horrible because, well, obviously you said you watched the Kimmel interview, right? Did you see them just bullshit. Spring?
So I don't know. I'm hoping that shit was fake. Cause do you remember like the Joaquin Phoenix shit that he did where he pranked David Letterman by going on his show in like this weird character and stuff like that way back in the day?
Yeah, the beard.
I'm hoping that like this was his design and this was because he's got that really weird sense of humor.
But he looked devastated in that moment. So for those that don't know what we're talking about, Jimmy Kimmel sprung a clip of an outtake from the Joker where he's sitting there and he's writing jokes in that journal and he's trying to get into the character and the cinematographer, I guess, is whispering in the background. And he just, not Christian Bale level, good for you! Like, not Christian Bale level, but definitely on some like
on
you're
Joker
fucking
level.
with me. Yeah, like you're ruining this for me. I can't do this, and he storms off. And they played it with him sitting there, and you could see how awkward it made him. I felt really bad for the dude.
Well, yeah, and he talks about fucking Cher. I don't know if you ever heard that. Like,
he said he was a diva. He said he was a diva.
Called him Cher. It called him Cher and called him a diva, and you got him there like in full Joker mode, just being like, you fucking call me Cher. That's not an insult. That's not an insult. She's a writer. She's a singer. She's an artist. She's great. That's not an insult. And it's like, oh my god, this dude has lost his fucking mind.
But after seeing his performance, if that's what he's got to do to put a performance like that together, let the man do you, boo.
Yeah, just
let the man.
But just part of your unwind is you should have eaten lots of pizza and cheeseburgers, gotten some of that weight back, and sat with a therapist while doing it. Because again, I don't believe that he acted that well. I believe that he might be a little fucked up.
Man, last dude that played him killed himself.
So, yeah. I mean, facts.
like straight up, bro. Straight up. We want to talk about, delving into characters and how they affect you. Oh, second to last. Forgot about Leto.
Everybody forgets about Leto. Leto. You get all the news stories this week of like Leto being upset about the Joker movie and whatever else. Like, yeah, of course he's upset about the Joker movie because he gave a bogus ass fucking version of Joker that's everybody's gonna forget.
I'm not blaming Leto, man. I'm not doing it.
I'm not blaming Leto entirely. But obviously Leto.
I think Leto was a great casting. I think he could do a great Joker. I think he gave the best with what he could work with.
Maybe and whatever. I'll never get behind fucking Joker. Gangster Joker.
Like I said, I watched Ledger the next day, and after seeing the Joker and watching The Dark Knight again, it doesn't hold up as one of the top comic book movies to me anymore. And he's really, to me, an okay Joker. It was a very linear performance, and it wasn't like anything special. I remember watching it at the end of it, looking at my girlfriend, and I couldn't explain to her why everyone thought this was like the best comic book movie ever for a long time. Like I think it still I couldn't rationalize that anymore. Oh, at the time when you walked out of the theater, it was epic. It was mind blowing, but I watched it again and I was just like, yeah, I can't tell you why we all thought this was great so and went bonkers. Yeah. I can't do that right now.
All right.
So yeah,
we're pushing along here. I just want to ask you your thoughts. How do you interpret the ending of the movie? Where do you think this leads off Gotham and the Joker?
I think he eventually breaks out, and then it comes on the news that he's broken out of Arkham. The few people that loved what he did that are still embracing what he did become henchmen, and he goes off and becomes the Joker we all love.
Do you think this is shortly after being arrested and placed in Arkham? Or is this years later, closer to Batman age later?
No, this was shortly after, I think. I think he's got another 15 years. That's why, if they want to make another Joker movie, give it to me, man. You got 15 years of him being the Joker without Batman.
Yeah.
Or at least a decade. So give me that decade before Batman comes on the scene. Give me a whole bunch of Joker movies where Batman isn't even fucking around.
Yeah. I mean, I'd watch it for sure. And Todd Phillips has talked about wanting to do another Joker movie, and it won't include Batman, is what his thoughts are. So, they don't want to spin this into, hey, the Batman stuff. They want this to be on its own. Speaking
of the Batman stuff, how did it sit with you when they first kind of tried to imply that him and Bruce Wayne were brothers?
I really didn't
honestly, my first reaction was like, oh, here we go. I was like, oh, here we go.
I had to think for a second, and I really thought this is going to be a bullshit. And I knew if you did that, the comic fans were going to fucking lose their mind. It was never going to be accepted. So I was glad that they kind of reneged on that in the end. And just backed away from that whole concept. Yeah,
it threw people. It kept you guessing. It threw you. It was part of the roller coaster ride.
Yeah, and people can still say hey, maybe was it fabricated? Is that really still the true story? I don't believe it. Do you believe that Joker really got that big applause and was dancing on the cop car and all that stuff, celebrated by the henchmen?
So I want it to be true. You can make an argument that he was just in the back of the ambulance, knocked out, and that was all in his head, and that's how he got.
That's what I think he's doing.
But honestly, when he stands on the car and he takes his four fingers and makes the smile and blood on his face, and he's holding his fingers there, that is just such an icon. That is burned in my head. If I was to I seen it and instantly I said, that would be a dope ass tattoo. Hey dummy, why don't you get that as a tattoo? Cause to me, that is just, I love the Joker. I would love a Joker tattoo. And just the way the smile paint played with blood in his face just after, it was just such an epic scene. The cinematography in that movie was phenomenal.
I love that part. I just thought that was a part of his delusion. That was a part of his delusional mindset, because you got to think. But
that's the fun part is you're right and I'm right. If I love it so much, I want it to be real. Well, fuck you, it's real. Tell me it's not. I'll fight you.
That's why I after reflection, initially seeing the movie, I was questioning my thoughts on it, and then after more and more reflection, you just think of all the different ways this can be interpreted and the different social contexts that you can look at this through. It really is it is a piece of art. It is great in that regard. So,
with that said, go see it if you haven't seen it.
I mean, if you haven't seen it,
and if you haven't seen it, why you listen to this?
Man,
why you listen to this? Go see it again. Yeah. Go see it again. I'm all for second viewings of this film. Like I said, I appreciated it a lot more. I rarely see a movie twice. Go see it. Take a friend who hasn't.
Yeah. And this being our first time doing a show here on for Patreon exclusive, let us know what you think. If you'd like to hear,
if you appreciate the episode
or whatever, and join in the conversation. There are comment threads and things to be had here in Patreon. Let's keep the comments going, or join in that Facebook thread.
Leave us a voicemail line. Get on the show.
All right, but for those of you, again, for the Patreon supporters, we do truly appreciate. There's a reason why we want to do this. We find it difficult to truly articulate how much we appreciate the level of support of people giving us, whether it's a buck or whatever. It's never easy to open up a wallet. It's never easy to justify this stuff. And we hope that we're providing enough value that you found a reason to do so, and you found a reason to support us and make this viable for something that we can do for some length of time. And thank you very much for being a patron of the Nerd Cantina.
And we're gonna figure out some more things. So this is just the beginning. And we're gonna definitely put some more effort into this. So thank you guys very much.
All right. That said, we'll do one of these again sometime. But join us in the regular shows on the normal RSS feed, and we'll talk to you guys next week.
See you, nerds.